I would really like to thank you for honoring me by just allowing me to be here and share space with you. See, I grew up in the Dakotas. It's different than the city life. There's a whole lot of nature. There's a whole lot of earth back home that you don't really see here. And so I think in some ways my perception of power is a little bit different. Can I ask a few of you what comes to mind when you hear the word power? Okay, yeah, like you are power. Each one of you is power. And I want to touch on a few things, and I kind of want to speak a little bit about trauma. Every single one of us descend from very strong people, from human beings. We are all human beings. But somewhere along the way, trauma touched each of our lives. And it's been passed down from generation to generation. It's a lot more focused, when you start talking about the natives and what has happened to us here on this continent, but it includes everybody. And when you think about trauma, you don't really think that we're passing it on to each other. See, I didn't grow up on the reservation, but I grew up pretty close. I'm from the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation in Eagle Butte, South Dakota. But let's talk about trauma for a minute. I was abused by my mother. She hit me. She was verbally abusive. I was molested as a child by a very close family member. That is trauma. I am a direct result of trauma from the generation before me. And what did I do with that trauma? I passed it on. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it to my next generation. See, my mom hit me and called me names, and when I was drinking and I wasn't in my right mind and I was using drugs, that's what I did to my child. I did that to my daughter. And I was passing my trauma onto her to carry. I was affecting her heart and her mind because I didn't have my heart and my mind in the right spot. Does that make sense? So when you think about it, how do we talk to each other? How do we communicate with each other? How do we present ourselves to each other as human beings? And I can't blame the white man and say he came in and did that because it was my own people that carried that trauma, and still to this day, in a lot of ways, we do. And it became about a certain type of fear. See, because I thought that was normal. That's not normal. It's not normal to be abused. It's not normal to be called names. It's not normal to have somebody hit you or molest you or touch you in a way when you say no. There's no excuse for it. And I was scared to change. See, I made all the mistakes. I went to jail. I've been to prison. I lost my children to the system. I attempted suicide. I have used drugs and alcohol. And all of it stole my power. And it didn't just take it, I gave it up. Because you know why? Because to change, I had a fear of change because changing is uncomfortable. It really is uncomfortable. And I think in our own, we all have these images of self-doubt, but somewhere along the way, I believed everything that was said to me. And I wasn't thinking. I wasn't using my head. Because all of the things, it doesn't matter what it does matter what happens to you, but it really doesn't in the larger scheme of things because it doesn't define who you are. You are not any of the things that happened to you. I got out of prison 4 years ago. I flatted my number. And somewhere along those lines, I started to change. But I had to start to love myself so I could love the person standing next to me. I couldn't care for myself and my children because I couldn't care for myself. I had to think my way out. And somebody earlier talked about some things about things being programmed into your mind, but that's right. We're taught not to value ourselves. Some people value their phone more than they value their brother or their sister or their mother. That is a material object. That is not power, and it's really hard to step out of that. Now, when we want to talk about our power in connection to the earth, You know, we are made up of the same metals, minerals, and elements of the earth as anything else. Everything that comes from us is natural life. We are power. We are the thunderstorm. You know, we are the earthquake, we are the tsunami. We have the same type of power as that if we come together and be together in a hoop. You know, I think a lot about power and the false perceptions of what that is. A gun is not power. You can't stop a bullet, but maybe you could change the mind of the person behind the trigger. It all depends on what you're looking at. You know, and the earth is our ally, she is our mother. She gives us life, she's not against us. You know, but sometimes I wonder how, as we are against ourselves, are we against her? And how easy is that to make it hard to live in balance with her? Because we see all these things that are happening, but I kind of think of it as a spiritual warfare. You know, and when you go back to the trauma and the fear, in some ways that controls where our minds are. It controls where our hearts sit. Does that make sense? You know? And so you got to think about that. Love yourself. You are power. You know, and you are the youth. Not only are you power, you are our next generation. Where your hearts and your minds are really is where kind of the direction humanity will go. Walk in love. Think about everything. Don't believe everything that you're told. Think about it. And then see where your mind takes you from there and listen to your heart. Because have you ever really been in a bad situation and you get that kind of feeling in your stomach and you're like, oh man, you know? Because you know. That is your body, that is your spirit, that is your mind telling you something isn't right. And when you don't listen to it, what usually happens? You know? That's a human thing. I've done it many times. You know, back home they call me trouble. You know, and it used to be because I was always getting in trouble, but then all of a sudden I stepped out of it and people are like, who are you? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm getting to know her. It wasn't so bad, you know? But just don't do it when you're like almost 40 years old like I did, you know? Just value yourselves. I get here and I'm humbled by your presence. I'm humbled by where you are going to go. Everything that I do, all the I don't think that I can change the world, like if you look at it in the larger perspective, but I can change my world. And when I start participating in my world, then it affects how I participate in your world. And we are all connected. Does that make sense? So healing is a big thing because healing is going to help you on your next step. I think it's about evolution. I think it's about evolving out of who we are told we are supposed to be so we can figure out who we are for ourselves. And I think that praying, you know, I'm not religious, but I believe in a certain level of spirituality, and I think a certain level of praying brings healing because it reconnects you to your spirit. It reconnects you to your heart and your mind, you know, and it affects your thoughts. But it's also an energy, because everything really is energy. You know, did you ever notice when have you ever heard that term, misery loves company? Oh, don't hang around me when I'm crabby, you know, because I'm like, But it's the same thing because it's catching, just like happiness is. It's energy, and when you put good energy into the world, guess what you're calling back to you? That's right. I'm kind of on a limited time here, but I just want to read a poem by my dad, and it's called Children of Earth. We are all children of Earth. Kids, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers. We are all children of Earth. The earth is our mother. Mother Earth is for all of us. We must all be kind to our mother. Take care of her and love her. Mother Earth has many children. All living things are her children. The plants, animals, birds, fish, insects, reptiles, and the people. The human beings have a responsibility to take care of the living natural world. The Mother Earth takes care of us, provides all we have. If we do not care for her, she cannot care for us. The human beings have thoughts and can act on these thoughts. How the human beings think affects all living things. Human beings are caretakers. To take care of the Mother Earth, protect her with the good thought, we are all children of Earth. We are all children of Earth. The Earth is our mother.
Please put your hands together for Sage Trudell. Come on, y'all.